Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another Lavinia Stamps mixed media tutorial with me, Lisa Taggart, and today I'm privileged to be able to demonstrate some of the new release stamps. This one's called One Winter's Morning. So to begin, we've got our 8 by 8 inches card, and 2/3 the way up we're doing our landscape, and we've got a horizon line there sort of sweeping upwards, and then a combination of just wiggly lines, so you can make your own banks, the shape of them. Take a screenshot if you want to copy this one, but just do a variety of wiggly lines. We're going to start the stamping now, and we're using pine cone for all of the stamping. And we're beginning off with the horizon, and I stamped off first of all to do second generation because I want it sort of to recede in the distance a little bit. And in advance I've stamped a number of the stamps and cut them out using the masking sheets. So that's what I've done. I'm stamping off the houses as well because of course they're in the distance too. And once that's in place, I'll be taking its little mask that was pre-stamped and cut and adding that as well. So while I carry on building up the little houses in the background, I'll explain why I'm using two masking materials, the sheets and the masking fluid. As I've said, we stamp off the stamps onto the masking sheets and cut the stamp out, and there you can see another one I'm just placing on top, and that allows you to stamp over the top and build up backgrounds and put other stamps in the distance, and what you mask is in the foreground. And the masking sheets are great for building up stamping in this way. There's another example. I was able to put the tree in the background because I have the mask in front of the house and the tree. But when it comes to using water-based products and inks and paints and so forth, I would recommend then going on and using the painted masking fluid because that protects the stamps underneath better. Now I'm removing the little masking sheets, and what I'll do is mask them all off with the fluid, and there you are, and it's all dry now, and that allows me to use water over the top along with these inks. So I'm using the lovely Elements ink pads, which I'm a bit obsessed with lately, and my water brush. And really the tip here is to use a tiny amount of the ink and to blend it out really well. As you can see, I'm starting off with yellow for the centre of the sky, and I'm using the water from the water brush to blend that out and to dampen the card, the top third, over the top of the houses and all the rest of it. So that means I can dip into other colours and blend them into the background. So just strengthening up the centre there with a tiny bit more yellow, and where you think it's too damp, you can use your kitchen towel to take some water off the brush. And now I'm just again using a tiny amount of this red, just literally dip the point in of the brush into the lid and taking a tiny amount and basically sweeping little lines across the sky to give the impression of distant sunrise clouds, and each side will build the colour up slightly, and really there's no precise way of doing this. Your sky will be different from my sky, and that's fine. All skies are different, and I absolutely love doing skies, particularly colourful skies. So as I say, the trick is to use a tiny amount, and where you're a bit heavy handed, just blend it out really well with the water brush, and also lift out water if it gets too much with your kitchen towel. So I'm continuing to build up the red, which when you blend it out is a nice pink colour, because all ink dyes have lovely undertones. So next up we're using one of my favourites, the Della Blue. So much so I had to buy a second ink pad the other day because the other one had run out. So adding that just to the top of the sky and sweeping that down, and when you mix that in, of course, with the red, it turns a beautiful lilac colour. And again, I'm not using an awful lot, just a tiny amount, and going over some of the areas where I have the pink, and just that creates the clouds in the background. And I'll also then take the graphite colour in a little minute and do a similar thing, just deepen up some areas with a very tiny amount of the grey colour as well. Now I wanted to keep the centre of the sky fairly pale yellow, because that's going to reflect in the little river down below. And as you can see, what I've done with the graphite ink pad and with the others is press in the lid, and that means that you have this little reservoir of ink in the lid to use. There's various ways you can use the ink pads. You can also stamp it out onto your craft mat and use it from the mat. But as I say, we're using such a tiny amount for this project that it's better, I think, to use the lids. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm first of all adding the water to the lake so that the ink blends better. And I'm starting off with a line of yellow right down the centre. And we're doing the reflections of the sky, so we're using the same colours again, and just very lightly dab them in, and we're doing a sort of a stripe of yellow down the centre with some pink either side, and then of course the Della blue and the graphite as you go to the edges where the little river is deeper, and it starts to delineate the edges of the river as well. And if your line doesn't stay in place, you can always again take your trusty kitchen towel and dab out what you don't want and add in the colour again. So starting now to add the Della blue, and it's turning the lovely purple colour, mixing with the pinky red, and again very lightly, very light touch, just to add in the hint of reflection from the sky. Now I'm back to the graphite, and I'm going to use this to go around the edges of the banks and just to dab in while the card is still damp, and that means it blends in very nicely, and it's starting to deepen up the edges and give the impression of depth to the sides of the bank. And so we're going to do this gradually by starting off with, as I say, the graphite, and blending that in nicely, and just little dabs, and start to think about little stones perhaps in the water, and maybe slushy snow, and it's not altogether perfect. If you want your river and your snow to be pristine, don't do this, but I like to sort of make it a little bit realistic. Although, except this picture today is quite whimsical, and it's not really meant to be realistic in that sense. So as you can see, I've drawn it down a little bit there in the edges to look at like reflections, and blended it well in. And then at this stage, back to the pine cone in the VersaFine Clair, and do some background trees, stamping off on copy paper there, well, just slightly off camera, and using another piece of copy paper just to mask the bottom so it doesn't go down too far. And I always love to mix in this red pine. This was the small version, and it just adds lovely combination of textures for the trees. And there we are. So next we're back to the Della Blue again, and this time we're going to build up the edges of the bank. And like before, we're first of all adding the water down to the areas where we're going to place the blue so that it blends nicely. This is sort of wet on wet watercolour technique, and as you can see, it feathers out and creates its own thing. And so I've put that down where there might be the hint of a little path coming out of the houses. Anywhere you think there might be little areas of depth or shadow. So pop your water gently first, and then dab the tiniest amount of the Della Blue on top, and carry on doing that wherever you fancy really. And you can stretch the shadows across the snow. And now I've taken this mid-tone brown, and I'm starting to deepen up the edges a lot more, just to give them a wee bit more depth, and really just again dabbing in very, very gently these very dark areas, and then take my water brush and blend it all out again. So going back and forward, and of course when the card is damp it all blends nicely in together. So make sure you add the water, just a little bit of water first of all, a little bit of Della Blue, and then a tiny touch of the sort of medium cool brown colour, just to really sort of again delineate the edges of the little river. So I'm just carrying on with that, and now as I come towards the foreground, I've decided to add messier snow, because of course I'm going to have the lovely Oakley added in this section, and there might be sort of hoof prints in the snow, and it'll be a bit more messed up. So just carrying on blending. Wasn't sure what I was doing with this little part of the river, but just kept it blue and added some more shadows, and now it's ready to stamp the lovely Oakley. Now again, you don't even have to use Oakley in this picture, and I was in two minds about whether to put him in or not, but I thought, well, I may as well. I have room, so I'll put him in, and I will colour him as well with the zig markers, so I'm not too concerned that there are little patches to colour. Now removing all that masking fluid, and it's all away now and nice and smooth. I took this pale brown just to add it back the little details of the house, and now pulled out some of my watercolour markers to start the colouring. And having to think about what colours to use. Obviously you can choose a different colour palette. I was thinking about the sunrise colours are pinks and sort of pale brown tones, so although the little houses technically the front of them will be dark in shadow because the light is behind them, I didn't want to do them too dark, but I was trying to keep in mind that they will need to be dark to some extent. So going back and forth with these colours, and I was using the blender marker, there it is again, just to smooth out the colour. And this is a great little pen to have in your arsenal, your crafty arsenal. So I would recommend if you could get hold of the blender, it is great for blending colours together. Now I'm starting to add back some of the little details and some of the shadows with the medium brown, and all the while blending in with the blender. I think I also add this is pink into the roof, because there'll be the reflection of the sunrise on the roof, and so you're just sort of making it up as you go along. And as I say, you can choose different colours for your picture, just whatever pens you have, I suppose. Wanted the lights to shine as well, and moving on and doing a very similar thing with the little bridge. the bridge, I wanted it to sort of be in the background because it's in the distance, so I was colouring it in pale tones, but ultimately I think I darken it up a little bit in the end up, because I wanted it to look very similar to the wood texture in the Nook, the new stamp at the front that has the little house in it. I wanted it to look the same, so I think I add in sort of colours to match that in the end up, and I think that's the reason why I chose the bridge, because I like the texture of it to match up with the texture of the new stamp. Now I'm taking my zig pens and adding some colour and definition to Oakley, and starting off with sort of the darker brown for his legs and his bottom half, and then blending that in with medium brown. I think I also use in this colouring process sort of a warm tone brown as well, and I actually add in sort of reddy peachy pink at the top as well, which makes them sort of tone in or helps them blend in colour wise with the overall colour scheme of the picture, because I always try to achieve a colour balance in the picture by using the same colours throughout the picture, and that helps harmonise it and is better on the eye, I suppose, when you're looking at the overall composition. So just carrying on, deepening little parts of his antlers. Later on I add some white little patches to give a hint of snow gathered in his poor antlers, but keeping his top pale. There's this sort of warm brown that I'm using as well, and in a mint or two I think I grab like a pinky peach to bring in that pinky tone. Yes, there it is, and just keep going until I'm happy with it. I decided to give him an eye as well, which you can't see very much there, but I wasn't going to fuss too much with colouring him in a very realistic way. I just wanted him to stand out. And now I'm taking my greys in the zig colours, and there's a dark grey and a pale grey, and just adding extra little details. This is a pale blue, which I thought I would use for a shadow. You could also go back to the Della blue, and I've mixed it there with grey as well. And then moving on to the colouring of this lovely trunk, which is absolutely gorgeous. This is one of my favourite stamps of the new release, and it of course had to be used. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the colour here, but what I tend to do is I just lay down some colour, see how it looks, and make it up as I go along. So the front of the trunk would be the darkest part in the centre. You might have some reflection either side, so keeping the sides light. And I tried adding in the pink to match in with the rest of the picture. And I just kept going with that, with browns and pinks. I left it for a little while, and then started to add the shadow in the foreground there with the greys again. And then I think at this stage I also then pulled out the pale blue, and that gave me the idea to create a frostier look. I suppose with the snow and everything, I thought actually the trunk and the little branches would look nice if they were frosted up a bit. So I went over the pink parts to some extent with this pale blue, and decided it would be a nice contrast to the rest of the little houses if I used some of the similar colour but mixed it with blue. And I think I was happier that there was a bit of a contrast. But as I say again, you know, use what colours that speak to you when you're doing a version of this. Now I'm starting to add the little snow details with my white gel pen. You could use a white Posca pen if you don't have this particular brand. It's just to go over the top of things a little bit, and just highlight all the little twigs and branches with the white, which adds a touch of frost, doing it to the bottom as well, and adding little mounds of snow. I think I do it here and to the bottom of Oakley's little hoofs as well, and add snow to the bridge and the other roofs of the houses. Now this stamp has little details of dots, and I'm going to use those as lights. But first of all, I'm going to use this pink colour to light up the Christmas trees with matching pinky tones, and now use back to the white just to add some more reflections in the water, which is something I like to do at the end once the colouring's complete. Now I'm back to using the blender marker, and this is another technique which I've enjoyed using lately, where it's blending in the white gel pen, and it's great for that as well, not just the zig pens. It just takes the edge off it a little bit. Now off camera I've gone ahead with my white pastel and added in the little orbs, if you like. I've also put the snow in the trees, and I think I used a little bit of pastel to knock back the colour of the houses a little bit. I also added in some pink and some yellow to the snow as reflections, just a tiny bit, and some snow there to the bottom of Oakley and to his antlers as well. And now I'll just show you what I did to the other side of the tree, or the other tree on the other side. So simply, once the little pink dots have been coloured, you just circle them with a white pastel pencil, and once that is done, then you can see on the other side I've put yellow around the white, and for these trees I'm just going to use white for the very centres. You can see also while I'm doing that, in the background I have darkened up the bridge and made it looks very similar to the trunk of the tree in the foreground. Now finally some additional stamping, and I'm using this small branch, which is one of my absolute favourite stamps. I just love adding little touches of it here and there in my paintings, and it's just a hint of foliage coming out of the snow. And I'm using some torn copy paper just to mask off the bottom half, so I just want little tiny amounts poking out of the snow. And then of course finally we've got stardust in the stickles, and I'm going to highlight pretty much everything to make it twinkle lots and lots. So we're adding it to the lights in the tree, the snow of the beautiful trees, the snow around the houses, some twinkle in the river, and I add some to Oakley as well, just wherever you fancy, just so that it looks a little bit more festive. So that's the picture complete. It's been mounted up onto pale cream and black card just to create a frame. But I hope you enjoyed this week's project for me, and that you managed to get hold of some of the new release stamps for Christmas, which are absolutely glorious, and I really enjoyed using them. And I nearly called this project Was It Something I Said, because poor old Oakley's on his own with no fairies, so maybe your version could have a fairy or two so he's not so lonely. So until next time, take very good care of yourselves, and above all, get creating, be brave, and do enjoy the adventure.